Okay, so today we're going to discuss what is cost control, purpose of cost control, objectives of food and beverage control, steps in doing cost control, and the flow of control in food service operation. So let us first discuss what is cost control. So when we say cost control, it is defined as the process of regulating costs and guard against excessive costs. So it is a process daw in which we focus on controlling the total cost, no, through a competitive analysis. Meaning, what do we mean by competitive analysis? It means identifying your competitors and evaluating their strategies so that we can determine their strength and weaknesses relative dun sa ating product and services. So restaurant cost control consists of maximizing profits by establishing realistic financial benchmarks, comparing them to actual performance, and then eliminating the factors causing the variance between the two measurements. So cost control is not the same. It is not the same with cost cutting. So siguro naririnig natin yung salita na cost cutting. When we say cost control kasi, ang aim niya is to carry out operation at a reasonable cost without sacrificing the quality of service and production. So, kay cost cutting kasi, nung sinerge ko siya, reducing the cost at the expense of quality. So, yun yung difference ni cost control with cost cutting. So, we do not associate cost cutting with cost control. They are different things. Okay, so let us talk about this. So, a cost control system is designed for the following reasons. First, establishing standards or goals. So, these standards or cost standards are yardsticks against which actual performance is measured. No? So, they are achievable goal based on planning, analysis, and calculations. And they assume that the operation is error-free, no waste, no theft, no mistakes. So, you can think of them as a tool for comparing what should be to what is, no? So ito yung magsaserve sa atin as standard to follow, kumbaga. And it will also serve as a consumption limits. Like for example daw, if we set our food cost percentage for this month at 31%, meaning to say for every $1 ng revenue, should be $0.31 should be spent on food and alcohol lang. So, ganun. Another example siguro is in determining budget or identification of number of meals served during the operation. So, through cost control, so nakakapag-set tayo ng standards or goals. Next. As measurement of performance. So, any cost over which management has a direct influence must have its own standard. So, yun nga yung sinet natin kanina sa first step. And be clearly stated. So, normally, this measurement of performance is usually a quantitative figure. No? So, it can be percentage, amount, ratio, cost per unit, etc., etc. Next. So, comparison and analysis. So, actually, actual performance versus standards or budget. So, can be used to measure variance of actual performance against standards established. So, kanina nag-set tayo ng standard, then cost control, mag-serve siya as measurement of performance. Now, we can use cost control also for comparison and analysis. So, mako-compare natin yung ating sinet na standard. Kaya nga sinabi ko kanina that cost standards are yardstick. So ito yung magiging standard natin versus our actual performance. Whether we achieve our goal or let us simply say na-meet ba natin yung sinet natin na standard. So once na hindi natin na-meet, meron tayong tinatawag na corrective action, no? So it is seeking for causes and remedies to resolve the variance. So inaalam natin dito, ano ba yung naging problema sa operation that causes the variance? Ang ibig sabihin po natin ng variance is the difference between your standard o yung sinet natin na, let us say, in terms of budget, sinet natin na budget dun sa actual na nagastos natin. So, the manager or owner once identified these variances can take corrective actions such as personal changes. Let us say, hindi na masyadong nagpo-function ng maayos or hindi na nagtatrabaho ng maayos yung atin, no? So, trying out another methods of operation, or baka naman yung mismong sinet natin na standard is very unrealistic at kailangan nating mabago. So, with cost control, natutulungan si operation to improve and of course, to minimize waste din na tinatawag natin. Through what? Of course, we can correct yung mga previous mistakes natin with analysis of our data na nag-gather. So, let us move with the objectives. So, ano ba ang objective ni food and beverage cost control? So, first is analysis of income and expenditure. So, kung sinabi natin analysis of income and expenditure, the analysis must only focus on the income and expenditure related to food and beverage, no? Such as revenue analysis, which may include volume of food and beverage sales. So, pag ina-analyze natin si income and expenditure in terms of food and beverage, so, gaano ba kadami yung naibenta, yung mga sales mixes natin, which food categories yung nakikita natin na nagko-contribute to a large sales, no? So how much yung average spending ng customers natin, and gaano ba kadami yung covers na na-serve natin or yung number of customers na pumasok sa atin. So yun yung objective niya, to find out those information. So next is establishment and maintenance of standards. So standard operating procedures or SOPs must be available to all staff, no, for reference. So SOPs must be will become basis for operations and will serve as a tool in measuring performance of staff. In terms of pricing, pricing is important to determine food menu and beverage list prices in the light of accurate food and beverage costs and other main establishment costs. As the average customer spending power, the prices charged by competitors and the prices that the market will accept. Or simply saying, yung nagkakaroon tayo ng competitive analysis na tinatawag. Ibig sabihin, we need to identify our competitors and evaluating their strategies, determine their strengths and weaknesses na rin relative to those of our own product. No? So as compared to our product, ang objective then in terms of prevention of waste, having a cost control na or having a cost control system in our restaurant, we can minimize or we can avoid these problems, yung overproduction, poor preparation. So dahil nag-set na rin tayo ng standard recipes, nagkakaroon tayo ng standards na pinapollow. So si cost control din, with the help of cost control, we can prevent yung fraud na tinatawag, no? So, cost control system established to prevent or at least restrict possible areas of fraud by customer and staff. Typical areas of fraud by staff, yung overcharging or undercharging per item served. So, or stealing of food, drink, or cash. Having a control or control system, may iwasan natin na yung mga ganitong bagay, yung overcharging, ibig sabihin, sobrang sinisingil sa restaurant. So, ano yung magiging cost nito with the restaurant? Of course, possible, hindi tayo makakapag-create ng yung customer relationship natin. O, hindi tayo makakapag-build ng loyalty among our customers. In terms naman ng stealing of food, drink, or cash, it means of course, this is a cost, no? Merong that serve as additional cost na rin sa atin. Yung hindi natin na ma-manage maayos yung ating mga stocks because yung meron tayong stealing of food, drink, or cash na ginagawa ng staff. In terms of customers naman, paano ba yung fraud in terms of customer, no? So example, deliberately wailing out without paying their meals or disputing the number of drinks or meals served. So kung wala kang control, nangyayari to, no? So kung hindi naka-establish, so pwedeng makipagtalo sa'yo si customer, no, disputing yung number of drinks na na-serve mo sa kanila, number of meals served. So without a proper system ka, mahirap yung mga ganitong bagay, hindi natin may iwasan. So, if you can have yung mga POS natin, nag-generate siya ng mga reports, yun, nakikita natin. or makakatulong sa atin to para maiwasan yung fraud ng mga ganun. Next is also help us yung management information. A system of control has an important task to fulfill in providing accurate, up-to-date information for the preparation of periodical reports for management. So, kumbaga, performance review. It can be quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. Ano ba yung status? So, because of cost control system, nagkakaroon tayo ng information. This information should be sufficient so as to provide a complete analysis of the performance for each outlet of an establishment for comparison with set standards previously laid down. So sinabi nga natin kanina, no, na si cost control help us to establish a standard and eventually comparing this with actual performance, and then for us to have a corrective action whether variances exist between actual performance and sa mga sinet natin na standards. So how do we do cost control? So yun ang tanong. So first is, actually there are basically 5 steps in cost control. So let us discuss each. So determine the expected income. So dito pumapasok yung revenue forecasting. So sabi dito, one cannot arrive at reliable cost budget if he does not know how much income is expected. So parang mahirap gumawa ng budget, no, if we do not know how much yung income na darating. So dito pumapasok yung forecasting. So forecasting will be discussed next lesson, chapter 2 or module number 2. So yeah. Next is establish budget expressed as cost ratio over sales. So all department heads must establish their budget for labor, supplies, raw materials, and other operating budget. So this will be in form of fixed ratio which varies among hotels or restaurants naman. So as for our example, let us say we determine yung cost of sales natin or yung cost of food sales natin, standard at 35% to 40%. So the cost distribution depends on many factors like the amount of fixed costs, competitors' prices, o yung competitive analysis nga kanina sinatawag natin, or ito pa yung ibang example, cost of overhead expense, type of market, buying capacity ng customers, and other factors. Let us say we have a large cost of rental. So other fixed costs may prompt an operator to bring down food cost percentage. So dahil these are controllable costs, pwede natin siyang babaan for us to give way para sa mga other expenses. So yung mga cafeterias that cater to low-income diners usually maintain a food cost of no less than 45 to 50% with smaller markup so that the prices become more affordable. So after all, yung mga cafeterias naman na to, most of them do not pay rent nor shoulder utility costs as compared dun sa ibang restaurant. That's why mas mataas yung kanilang pricing. In terms of pricing, mas mataas yung sa kanila. Next, let us talk about compare actual costs versus budget. So each unit is expected to monitor its actual cost of operations against the budget. So a budget variance report must be prepared indicating the differences in expenses and the budget. So yun yung pangatlo natin gagawin. We need to compare yung actual costs versus dun sa sinet natin na budget. After that, we need to analyze the variance, whether there is a difference between your actual cost versus the budget. So any variance between the actual cost and the budget cost is a signal that there is an excessive consumption. So any excess will eat up allocation for profit or even other expenses. So let us say, nag-set ka ng 20% set aside as your total, as your profit, no? So once na yung 80% will be your operating budget. So let us say nag-operate ka, more than 80% yung nagastos. So, ibig sabihin, kinakain niya yung percent na sinet aside natin, which is of course our profit. So, ganun yun. So, what do we do when we found or find out that there is a variance? So, of course, we need to take corrective action. So, variances can be corrected by identifying and working on possible causes. Ano ba yung mga possible causes na yan? So, otherwise, excess in cost budget will accumulate and the desired profit will not be attained. So, we need to correct yung ating mga previous na mistakes, no? So, tulad nung sinabi ko kanina, maybe some of your merong fraud or overconsumption, no? So, not following standardized recipe. Those are some of the costs na nagkokos. I mean, sabihin, ito yung mga costs na dahilan, mga reasons kung bakit nagkakaroon ng variance, no? Bakit merong overconsumption. So those are possible reasons. So let us move with problems. So there are several problems in food and beverage control. So let us talk each. So first one is perishability of the product. So food is perishable commodity and has limited life. So therefore, food service enterprise must ensure the right quantity and quality in relation to estimated demand. And raw materials must store and process correctly. So dahil hindi matagal ang shelf life ng mga ilan sa mga raw materials natin. So, paano ba in terms of control, so paano ba siya papasok? No? Dito pumapasok yung kailangan tama lang yung quality and quantity. So, dito pumapasok yung tamang pagpa-purchase ng dami lang. No? So, also, in terms of storage, paano ba yung natin gagawin para ma-contain natin yung quality? So, iyan yung isa sa mga challenges, yung perishability of the product. So we need to form a control in which mamomonitor natin yung dami ng yung estimated demand natin. So at least we need to have an estimated demand for us to maka-order lang din tayo ng tamang dami lang ng stocks. Like for example, sa restaurant that offer cuchinillo o yung suckling pig, yung lechon na maliit na baboy, no? So we cannot store that in a 2 weeks time or let us say 1 month natin i-store kasi mura ngayon natin bibilhin, no? Ano yung sacrifice din is of course your quality. So kung hindi naman natin siya gagamitin araw-araw or hindi naman consistent or ibig sabihin hindi fix yun as part of your menu, it is very difficult for us to store yung marami agad. No, so because of the quality, sacrifice yung quality niya. Although mura natin siya mabibili ngayon. So may mga ganong instances. So dito pumapasok yung lead time. Ano ba yung lead time? Ito yung time in which na nag-order ka, kailan siya dadating, no? Versus the demand. So pag-usapan natin yan when it comes to purchasing. Yan, sa purchasing controls. So, yun yung isa sa mga problem, yung perishability of the product. So, yun yung isa. Next is business volume unpredictability. The ever-changing volume of business causes problem with regards to quantities of commodities to be purchased, as well as to the staffing required. So, isa sa mga problema din ng restaurant ay yung unpredictability, no? Kailan ba madaming tao? So, dahil pag maraming tao, ibig sabihin, we need to prepare or need to have more stocks and stock na pumasok. So, based on experiences na lang din, no? Some of the restaurants, meron na silang mga, kumbaga, they grab na or meron na silang history or performance or history of previous operations. So, alam nila weekly kung kailan madaming tao. Normally naman, ang restaurants it depends of course on the type and location of restaurant. Normally, merong mga restaurants na malakas during weekend, meron naman during weekdays. So ayan, ganyan. At least we need so that we can plan, no, in terms of buying our stocks and of course scheduling our staff para pumasok. So, para masagot or masolve natin si business volume unpredictability. Next is menu mix unpredictability. Effective forecasting is needed because of wide preference of customers. So, yun nga. So, initially, we prepare, let us say, we prepare naman yung menus natin based on study or yung feasibility study na rin. So, titingnan natin which dish yung mabenta, no, in terms of popularity nga and in terms of profitability. So, pinag-aaralan natin mabuti yan. And we need to have an effective forecasting for that, no, para masagot yung wide preference ng ating customers. Next is food and beverage operation short cycle. The speed at which food service operations take place allows little time for many control tasks. So, ang daming control, no? Starting from purchasing up to storage, issuing these stocks to the kitchen, no? So, preparation of food, the service, so lahat yan, we need to put a control. So, ang sinasabi dito, the problem is that we need to operate, yung speed ng operation allows little time for many control tasks. So, it is very challenging, of course, for the manager to formulate or to establish a control, no, para sa ganitong problema. So next is departmentalization. Many food and beverage operations have several production and service departments offering different products and operating under different policies. So sa malalaking department many food and beverage operations have several production and service departments, lalo na sa hotel, no, na iba-iba. So meron tayong section for the salads, no, for the baked products, meron naman tayo for the meat, ganyan. So, offering different products and operating under different policies. So, departmentalization. So, in a small restaurant naman siguro, yung having two major department, it is very easy to control lang naman. So, we need to formulate kitchen controls and of course, yung in terms of service sa dining area. We need to put, of course, or set standards to follow. Let us move with the next one. So, ito yung sequence flow of control in food service. So, everything starts with sales forecasting and budgeting, no? So, dito nga pumapasok yung establishing yung budget natin, no, through the help of sales forecasting. So we'll be discussing, actually this 9 areas na to will be the future chapters, no? So we'll be talking about the sales, budgeting, menu planning, ordering and purchasing, requisition, storing, or the storage controls, receiving, this will be sales, menu planning, ordering, receiving, storekeeping, requisition and issuance, food preparation, sales and accounting and audit. So let us talk about it briefly lang, isa-isa, no? So, sa sales forecasting, ang control measure or tool na ginagamit dito normally is your sales history. So, the sales history helps you in, of course, making decision, no, sa paggawa ng budget. So, si sales history kasi, ito yung mga previous records, of course, ng ating mga previous operations. So, this serves as baseline data in formulating budget or plans for the next operation. So, normally, ang person responsible for this is the manager, no? Kung maliit lang siya, that will be the restaurant manager. Maliit lang yung isang restaurant, no? So, or it can be the operations manager and the finance manager. So, let us move with the next one. So, in terms of menu planning, so, ang tools na ginagamit natin dito, yung mga control tools, we have the standardized recipe or cycle menus and recipe tests na ginagawa natin, cost and pricing of menus based on established food cost percentage. So, iyan yung mga ilan sa mga tools. So, mga person responsible, yung chef natin and the cost clerk. So sa menu planning, yung basic nga dyan, yung standardized recipe. So we need to formulate standardized recipe so that yung mga kitchen people natin or kitchen staff, meron silang pinapollow na actually, this is standardized recipe kasi nandun na lahat. The procedures, kung ano yung mga gagamitin. So, indicated na lahat doon. So, everything, mas madali na kapag nakapag-set tayo. So, paano nagagawa sa standardized recipe? Of course, dumadaan yan ng recipe test, and so on and so forth. So, i-discuss natin yan in chapter 3, I think. So, Next is ordering and purchasing. So we have here the daily allocation matrix, market list, purchase request form. So meron pa dyan yung purchase orders. No? So normally, ang responsible dyan ay si manager, outlet, or restaurant managers. Next, in terms of receiving of stocks, meron tayong as control measures natin and tools, meron tayong purchase specifications, competitive bidding, and purchase order also. No? So, yung in-order natin, dun din natin i-compare yung ating ma-receive. So, whether nasunod ba yung purchase specifications, ito yung detailed, no, per item ng bawat stocks na in-order natin. So, normally, ang responsible dito si end user and purchaser. When we say end user, let us say we order meats, no? So, hindi kasi natin pwedeng sabihin na meat lang yan. So, siya yung sa kitchen, normally yun, dahil doon pinoproduce yung pagkain. So, ano ba yung purchase specification niya? Let us say, ano yung grade ng meat, yung mga ganun, no? Ano yung cut, so, ilan yung kilograms required. So, sila, yung kung sino yung gagamit, yun yung end user, yung tinutukoy dito. So, let us talk about storekeeping. Sa storekeeping naman, so we need inspections for quality and quantity, receiving reports and records, suppliers invoice, use of meat tags. So, ano ba yung importance ng meat tags, no? So, dito pumapasok yung first in, first out natin para ma-avoid din natin na expired or nagkakaroon ng spoilage yung mga stocks natin. No? Limitation of access, periodic inventory. So, ito yung mga ginagawa in terms of store keeping. So, ang responsible dyan is si receiving clerk, responsible siya in terms of yung receiving reports and records, yung ibinibigay niya, yung na-generate niya na report, papunta kay stock or stock clerk. No? Si supplier naman, of course, yung supplier's invoice. Siya yung responsible for that. Next, requisition and issuance. In terms of requisition and issuance, meron tayong tinatawag ng mga requisition forms, balancing requisition slips with inventory, FIFO system, yan, force issuance for non-moving stocks. So, si requisition forms nanggagaling yan doon sa end user or na tinutukoy natin kanina. Let us say, yung magre-request for particular stock. So, kailangan niya gumamit ng requisition forms so that we can monitor yung lumabas dun sa storage. So, FIFO system, yun yung first in, first out na nabanggit ko kanina. So, ano yung first issuance for non-moving stocks? Because hindi rin may iwasan that there are stocks na hindi siya madalas na-request kasi hindi siya nasasama sa nagkakaroon ng problema sa menu planning. O I mean, sa pag-create ng menus, no? So, may mga stocks na hindi natin nagagamit or maybe mahina yung consumption nito. So, nagkakaroon ng forced issuance. Why? To avoid, of course, yung waste para hindi siya ma-spoil na rin. No? Of course, kapag merong forced issuance, maybe there's a problem. Bakit nangyayari yun? No? Na dumarating sa point na nagkakaroon ng forced issuance. Maybe over yung ating pagbili ng mga stocks na hindi naman masyado nagagamit or kailangan. So, si end user and stock clerk yung responsible. Next, food preparation, no? Use of standardized recipe or standard recipe. Then, inter-kitchen transfer memo. Cooks and chefs yung responsible. So doon lang tayo sa food preparation basic lang naman, standardized recipe as mentioned earlier. That standardized recipe, ito na yung detailed, no? In terms of the ingredients of a certain dish, nandito na lahat. Ano yung sukat niya, ano yung procedure na kailangan gawin, no? So, kailan siya na-revise. So, we'll be talking about standardized recipes, kung paano siya ginagawa sa menu planning natin. Then, in terms of sales and service, so ito yung order slips. So, kung naalala nyo yung nabanggit natin kanina, pwedeng magreklamo yung isang customer, no, na ma-dispute yung number of drinks na na-serve, no? So, ito yung mga patunay natin, yung mga order slips na yan, no? So, ano pa yung ilan sa mga measures and tools na ginagamit in terms of sales and service? Yung receipts, reconciliation receipts versus order slip. So, we need to compare yung receipts and order slip, no? Baka hindi nagtatali yung lumabas na pagkain doon naman sa nabayaran. So, there's a problem, of course, kapag gano'n. Why? Baka naman mas marami pa yung lumabas na pagkain doon sa nabayaran. So, ibig sabihin, undercharge yung nangyari. So, that is a staff fraud, no? Tinatawag kanina. So, si waiter sa si cashier yung responsible for that. And lastly, accounting and audit. So, we need to have yung cashier's report for every period, for every duty, no? So, let's say AM. So, they need to, before the turnover, nagkikreate sila ng mga cashier's report. Documentations of purchases, receipts, cash transactions, financial statements. So, nanire-review ni accountant and auditor. So, this ends our Module 1. No? Actually, this is a brief introduction pa lang na what is a cost control. So, we'll be talking about this in detail for the next modules.